Hey there.
All right, good morning, everybody.
Dave, I saw you.
We have a lot to do this morning and
He came up to my house.
not a lot of time. So, I'd like to welcome you to the April meeting of the Binghamton Local Development Corporation. You have in front of you the minutes from March 28th, the regular meeting. I'll take a motion whenever anyone's ready.
Like to amend the minutes. I arrived at 9:16, not 10:16. I wasn't that late.
You'll make that correction. Thank you, sir. Anything else? All right. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Thank you, Susan. Ron Saul has the second. All in favor?
Hi.
All right, great. Rachel, what's yours?
This was the March financial report. And we will start on page 4 with the restricted account. The end of month balance in the restricted account was $476 and $38.22. What is that, 77? 77? That's your date, never mind. Oh, okay. Yes, so no major activity in the restricted account, just the loans coming in. The next page on page 5 is the receivable page for the restricted account. We have our restricted loans for Hanrahan and Tall, both paying, both doing great. On the next page, page 6 for the UDAG account, the end of month balance in UDAG was $641,024.55. There's checks that went out, and then on page 7 is the receivables for UDAG. Everyone who was paying continues to pay. 142 Court Street, as you can see, is paid off, which is great. They were delinquent for a long time. Zach Salisbury is on a payment plan, and we did receive the first payment. We received it in April, so he'll be paid right along with that. There are 12 payments, so it should be relatively quick and easy for him to pay off as well.
I believe we're gonna have Corporation Counsel send another follow-up email or letter to
Yes.
Ariel.
Yep, I tried checking in with her to see if she got the first letter and have not heard back, but she did, so keep right along with that. On page 8, the unrestricted account, the copy that you all have, there's a typo. Under professional services, the number should read 28,850 in both columns, the March and the year to date. Those were professional services having to do with the facade grant. But other than that, no major activity. From the following page, there was the pass through to SUNY Broom for the EAP program. So we keep a 10% or sorry, a 1% fee for our admin on that pass through. So that's the small number, and then the 37,964 is the number that goes through to the EAP program for their work. On the following page, the Mayor's Veterans Initiatives account, there was no activity. And the parent account, I guess.
Oh, yeah, so this was,
Because we
can't cut checks out.
because we have no checks out of this account.
yes, this is the money that we are paying to upkeep the New York Main Street investments that were made in 2018, 2017. There were bike repair stations on the corner of Front and Main that were required to be maintained as part of the New York Main Street grant. This account originally was, I think, created to manage the Main Street grant, and under the previous executive director, they accepted application fees for that program. So this small amount that's in here represents those application fees, and we decided to use it to upkeep those assets since they were damaged. So they're back up and running. And we had an issue where we can't cut checks out of this account, so we had to move the money to unrestricted to cut the check to pay Darrell.
And so on the final page, our delinquency page. We have the MR still delinquent, quality of life, once we put that check in the bank, he will come off of this page, so he's technically no delinquent. Ariel Hendricks we are in contact with, and 142 Court Street, possibly. This just happened after they closed this month out, but this should not be on this page, they are paid off. So that makes, at the end of March, the delinquency percentage of all loans not designated as non-performing 0.47. Yes.
Rachel, excuse me, who did you say was gonna be paying and wouldn't be on the billing anymore?
142 Court
Yeah.
Street, they've already paid off.
We all set? Any questions? I just want to welcome Mike to the meeting this morning. I apologize, we're running around here, but welcome to the BLDC. We look forward to working with you. So, yeah, it's great.
And just so everyone knows, Mike is the new 6th district representative. He is the end result of the trial of the century that we had over a couple months. But Mike's been hitting the ground running, and we're glad to have him in the BLDC. And if you have anything in the 6th district, let him know.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no old business. Let's get right into the resolutions. We've got some work to do this morning. The first 124-13 is a resolution of the BLDC adopting the updated policies of the city of Binghamton for investment. Should have that in your packet. It's a scintillating read.
So in 2010, the BLDC adopted multiple policies of the city of Binghamton, including this investment policy. In, I believe, 2023, we updated a couple of those, our property disposition policy and our procurement policy to reflect the guidance from the Public Authority Budget Office. We did not update the investment policy at that time, but we've been talking for a couple months about adding NICLAS, which is an investment vehicle that I'll have Susan talk a little bit more about, to our depositories list. Instead of just adopting that as a standalone resolution, we decided to just adopt the updated policy of the city of Binghamton, which as of 2019 includes NICLAS as a depository. Susan, can I toss that to you to help us understand?
Sure.
NICLAS better?
So NICLAS is a local government investment pool that municipalities are allowed to invest in. It provides daily liquidity at the current rate if you were to invest in that. As of yesterday, it was 5.217, so a lot better than you are getting now. And so the thought being with the monies that are kind of in the one account for the bus clubs renovations to earn some interest on that. And I will mention that it is not a bank, so it does not pay taxes, but it is a vehicle that just had.
You had to say that, didn't you? You had to
I
say
wouldn't
that.
be able to sleep tonight if I didn't. And I mentioned
We'll
to
make sure
Rachel,
that's on the records.
I mentioned to Rachel yesterday that the investment policy that you have in front of you is not the most recent for the city, so we will update that for the record. It includes Tioga State Bank, but it was updated a bit.
Oh, thank you, Susan.
And NICLAS is a great organization to work with, and dealing with all the banks,
No pun
I
intended.
don't have to talk to them. Okay, I wire the money in, wire the money out, any amount, any day, anytime it comes.
And I was at a conference last week in Albany with the Government Finance Officers Association, and I did speak to the executive there, Joel Friedman, about you guys investing, and told him that, the recommendation was coming to the board to do so, and so he was very pleased.
Yeah, there's been a Fanta report, I believe we made $1,500 or $1,700 in the Boss Cops money account last month, so we should see that amount go up, which will enable us to. We talked to the Strategic Priorities Committee about doing sort of split where most of the money stays in that Boss Cops account as the landlord. We're going to have expenses that come up out of that building for the next many, many years, hopefully. So having some more money that's into there that helps us do those improvements and support that building, but then also having a small carve out that goes into our unrestricted fund and allows us to do some of the more creative economic development work, we've been able to do, our micro grant loans, some of our facade work. We've had a lot of inquiries about signs, which are a really small dollar way that we can support, businesses and beautification in the city of Binghamton. So more to come on that, but we'll see some sort of split between the Boscov's project and our unrestricted funds.
Great. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Thank you. Mayor, do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Betsy. Any comments, questions?
I think it's a great thing that we're doing.
Thank you. It's great. Good work.
Strategic Priorities Committee support.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Resolution 24-14. Resolution of the Binghamton Local Development Corporation accepting the transfer by quitclaim deed of all right, title, and interest in and to premises located at 22 Charles Street in the city of Binghamton. More particularly described as Broome County Tax Map Parcel Number 144.78-2-1. There's a period at the end of that sentence. Take it away, Sarah.
So in December, Binghamton City Council approved the sale of 22 Charles Street to the BLDC for the purposes of being able to market it as part of the larger Charles Street Business Park. We have been working with NYSERDA on a technical assistance program to develop a reuse plan for 22 Charles Street, former cogeneration facility, natural gas power plant. When it was given to the city in 2018, I believe, the previous owner took out the turbine, which is the most valuable asset in the cogeneration plant. Essentially made it, well, it made it non-functional. They cost about $1 million for us to purchase one, put it back in, and then get the plant back online with New York State in its current environment where it is currently declining new natural gas permits. Not feasible, also not necessary. We don't have these major power draws. We're not getting, with the way the world is moving, we don't have a lot of major power users that we imagine will be coming into the market. The biggest interest we've had that would be large power draws are essentially data mining facilities. They're not great economic development projects. They don't create a lot of jobs. They use a lot of resources. So those are things that people have come to us and asked us about putting them in the city, and they've never made sense for us to support from the public sector side. So we've still been trying to figure out what to do with this property. We're going to get into this in a couple of minutes with the rest of the resolutions, but we have an interest in taking the property, cleaning it out, and turning it into a manufacturing facility. So by transferring this property to the BLDC, it will enable us to enter into that agreement with this company, which I could talk about more now, or I can wait until we get to that resolution, whatever anybody wants to do. I'm gonna just go into it.
Let's do the resolution then.
Any questions on this particular piece?
So are you gonna take the transfer over the NYSEG account?
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that offline, how we handle that, but yes.
And is there a problem with the easement? There's a large easement on it, I think. For like natural gas line.
It's about a 4-inch piece of the gas line that NYSEG has an easement on. I know there's a couple, it's a trench easement, I think, Sophie. I talked with Bob Geary about this a number of times. He's not concerned that it would cause any issues with us doing the transfer. We've made it known to the purchaser and they're aware of it.
No, it's not anything of, no.
It was a headache when we took it over from the other one. I do know that.
Yeah, we still have to report into the Public Service Commission every year, basically saying that.
It's more a paperwork issue.
Yeah,
It's not a
paperwork.
transfer issue. It's nothing to worry about.
Okay, anything else? Let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks very much.
Do we make a motion in a second?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we skipped that.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Frank said.
Can I get
Robert.
fired for that?
I don't know, I'm not sure. Have to have an independent,
Are you trying to? Just some kind of investigation?
sort of
some sort?
independent blue or something, I don't know.
Ribbon panel?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll try to do better the next time. Wow. Resolution 24-15 is a resolution of the BLDC authorizing the president to enter into a restated and amended real estate option agreement with Pure Beauty NY LLC for parcel 3 in the Charles Street Business Park. I promise that I'll get this one right. Sarah, go ahead.
So in December, this body approved an option for Pure Beauty New York LLC for 6.5 acres of the roughly 8.237 acre parcel in the center of the park. We call that parcels 4, 5, and 6, just to the north of the cogeneration plant. as part of the project that we will talk about in the next resolution, they would like to also have an option on that 8-acre parcel. So we spoke with Pure Beauty about whether they would be interested in essentially swapping that 6.5 acres that they have for about 6.3 acres, that are commonly known as Lot 3, just to the north of that parcel. They were amenable to that. It still enables them to continue showing site control to the state. Spoken with Halen, he's very comfortable with this. He's talked with the company about it, and he would also like to probably come in next month, zoom in, give us an update on where this project is. Their option does expire in June. He expects that New York State will not fulfill their promise of having the licenses out before that time for this project. So he wants to give you guys an update and help you understand kind of why that delay is happening.
Is he gonna ask us for extension of some
At
sort?
this time, he would like to ask for an extension, assuming that nothing changes in the state, that their timeline.
I would have to put that in writing. Get that to us.
Yeah.
If
Yep.
That's what we're gonna be talking.
Yeah, definitely. But this will enable us to free up that 8-acre parcel in the middle, which in the next document will then be hopefully obligated to be earmarked.
I have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Frank. Second. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Got that one, right?
Well, everybody's enthusiastic.
Nice. Okay. Resolution 24-16 is a resolution of the BLDC authorizing the president to enter into a real estate option agreement with Firomar Incorporated for 22 Charles Street and parcels 4, 5, and 6 at 30 Charles Street in the Charles Street Business Park.
Let's talk about it. So a couple weeks ago, this is all happening very quickly. Firomar Incorporated came to us via a real estate broker that they are working with, looking for a property in which they could quickly establish a manufacturing presence. They have a number of contracts in New York City, specifically related to the JFK new terminal project, and they would like to locate in New York State to facilitate their work on that project. This company makes panels that are installed on the outside of buildings to improve the efficiency of the building envelope. About 70% of emissions in New York State come from our building stock. So this is something that is very much in line with New York State's CLCPA climate leadership something protection act. I missed a word though. So this is something that I think it's a really good fit for the state, and it's something that they really want to do, but it's also a really good fit for Binghamton. One of their big concerns and why they came to us in the first place was that they want ready access to workforce. The job creation in this project is primarily in the entry-level manufacturing kind of line work, about $50,000 a year jobs that they would be creating. But in order to take advantage of this contract that they have to locate in New York State, and they have to do it very, very quickly. So they have been in 22 Charles Street. It is a huge building with an insane amount of equipment in it. As we've been advancing the just transition program reuse analysis, the biggest barrier to us in finding a redevelopment partner and even just owning this asset in general is that at some point, all of that stuff needs to be cleaned out. We had a rough estimate from the consultants that we're working with on just transition for the clean out. That was much below what the actual expected clean out cost is, which is around $5 million, just to get everything out of there and make it, for lack of a better word, shovel ready for them to move these manufacturing operations into. They're currently located in Connecticut, so they'll be moving all of the equipment from their Connecticut facility to this. Entering into this option will enable them to get contractors in there to do the final valuation of the project. They've given us kind of back of the envelope estimates on what this would cost to do, but they want to get some professionals in there. That's something that we can really authorize while we have ownership of it. It's a liability for us. So having this option agreement and the indemnify and hold harmless agreement with Firomar enables them to get in there, have a full understanding of what they would need to do to get this project going. And ideally take this property off of the city of Binghamton and the BLDC's plate, get it back at the tax rolls, get it back into productive use, and fulfill kind of our longstanding dream for the Charles Street Business Park to have it be a job creation center. I will also say that when we met with the First Ward Neighborhood Assembly last year, we spoke about what the future of this power plant should be. Everyone had a lot of ideas, but we did come back and say, what if it was a job creation project? And every single person in attendance was in agreement that that would be a great end use. There were a lot of other things thrown around. They thought it might make for interesting housing. For a lot of reasons, that building is not well suited to that. They thought it might make for an interesting community center. That was something that we talked about for a period of time, but at this time, with this interest, who wants to take this from us? I think it's a really good next step, and it all comes together would be a really big win this year.
And just to put a finer point on it, because I asked the same question, and when the third-party consultant looked at this building and what it would take to move it to another type of use, right? You know, when we first were donated this piece of property from the California-based company, our thought was that the contents of the structure would be something that would be very valuable. Well, it turns out the only thing that was worth anything was the turbine. And once that is out, the equipment that's there is outdated, it's old, and the cost to remove it, and even with the scrap value, it still would cost someone to do it, right? And so that was another thing I think the BLDC should just be aware, is that maybe in concept, when we got this building donated, that there would be a lot of value in the contents. It turns out, and we had consultants that confirmed this, that that's not really the case. And so if we can get somebody to take on that burden of cleaning it out, getting rid of this antiquated equipment, that is a value add to the project too. Because that was one of my questions, and a question that was answered quite well by the consultants and the team here.
We are planning on conveying the 22 Charles Street property for $1 in consideration of the $5 million that they need to invest in the property. It's assessed for about $3 million. So if we were to sell it at the assessed value plus that, it becomes an $8.5 million project simply to get an empty shell of a building. That would not make the project come to fruition. So that is what we're moving forward with. We do intend to have them validate that those are the amounts that they actually spend on this project, so that we can be assured that we're getting at least equal value to what the building is worth, ideally more than that value in the fleet out costs. The acreage that's associated with this will be conveyed for, in consideration of the money that we owe to the IDA. If we close on any parcel of the Charles Street Business Park, we have a real estate agreement with them. Pay them a small amount of money up front, and we owe the rest of the money on the acreage, if and when we actually convey to a private entity. So those costs will be passed on to this purchaser.
Any questions? Well, digested. This is a great project. This may be the only outfit in the world that wants to do something with that building.
Today we haven't had any other interest, so, except for data mining.
How many jobs are they figuring?
They're thinking over 100, but I think it remains to be seen. And that would be with additional investment on that 8-acre parcel. They need additional square footage.
That works.
And when are they ready to start?
They have to start next
Yesterday.
week.
That's good.
They wanted to start on Tuesday this week, but we
Okay.
pushed them off until we can have this agreement signed. We
We're
won't be
working
able
on
to
the
close on the property for 90 days at least. But
We're working on the agreement with their attorney.
Yeah.
So obviously everything will be signed. And the city will be protected.
yeah,
Prior to their entry.
and I do want to say exactly to Sophie's point, her and Bob have been incredible on this project. They moved very, very quickly and spent a lot of time on this. And I'm very appreciative. I think the option and the agreement are really, really protective of the city and the BLDC. While also giving us the opportunity to move into this phase where they can do this pre-development work that they have to do. Per the ABO regulations, we cannot transfer this property until at least 90 days from the date that you guys approve the sale. So this enables them to start moving on this project during that 90-day period.
Great.
Make a motion.
Thanks, Susan. Can I have a second?
Well, second.
Thank you, Mayor. Any any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I think this is very exciting stuff. Last but not least, we have a resolution of the BLDC to accept the recommendation of the loan committee to award 3 commercial facade improvement grants. You should have in your packet a list of the grants and the amounts. Rachel, do you want to say anything about this?
Yeah, so these are facade grants that were previously recommended for approval by the BLDC Loan Committee in June. And these property owners all wanted to have design services through our Delta contract to find out how much the work would actually cost. So we held off on making the technical awards until we knew how much the total project cost would be based on the design work done by Delta. So the design work was cut back from Delta. We had some of the costs remained the same as the initial application, some were much lower, so it's a really great thing that we did that. And then we're just officially approving these awards that were already recommended by the loan committee. So for 65 Leroy, they're gonna have some new signage, lighting, paint, trim on the outside of that building that's on the corner of Leroy and St. John. On the northwest corner of Leroy and St. John, and it is gonna look so much better. So that's great, and that's the one that actually the cost is much lower than we initially anticipated, so that is putting a little bit of money back into the fund, which is great. 137 Laurel, that's the bowling alley on Laurel Ave. They're gonna fix their entrance door, do some ADA compliance stuff with the door and the ramp, and then do some paint and some signage. And 39 Frederick Street, he had a wild time with just some asbestos and is now gonna finish doing his windows and painting. So that's a really great project. That building will look vastly different, so much better when he's done. It's like a real estate office. It really needs to be redone. It's very purple. You can see it as you're getting off the highway. And so it's gonna.
Very visible gateway back there.
Very visible. It's gonna look great when it's done. So those are the projects. The scope is pretty much the same as when the initial.
Brandywine Avenue.
Ahanahi, right, across this? or-
Yes,
Okay,
Red Roof Realty or something.
Yeah, red carpet. really.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, gotcha. We'll of course show you guys before and afters once these are all completed, along with anything else that's been done since the close of the 2023 and report.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a second. Thank you, Ron. Any other comments, questions? All in favor?
I,
Thank you. Thank you. All right, moving right along here. This is where we get the speeches. Mayor, you're on first.
Okay. I'll keep it brief. Again, want to thank the Office of Corporation Counsel for doing about 6 years worth of legal work in 6 days as it relates to the BLDC transfer for 22 Charles. Incredibly complex, but has the potential of being a really, really neat showcase project in terms of New York State. With the governor's green energy initiatives, job creation, and everyone has worked very hard, economic development, corporation council. So we're looking forward to seeing that come to fruition. Don't really have anything else. I was at, just because it's apropos to the stadium district discussion that the BLDC has been having. There was another 2 fires on Henry Street across from the post office this morning. So as on scene, we'll be demolishing those properties later today in an emergency fashion to make them safe. So that is now 3 properties in a row, basically between Amici and the old Dixie Hotel, have caught fire in the last 2 months or so. So obviously, fire department and BPD are investigating, but that is a heavily blighted area that's now being cleaned up. Certainly not under the circumstances that we would like, but cleaned up nonetheless. So as we look to improve the stadium district, it was important that we get these properties down, that they're safe, and that they're not continuing to sit there as a dangerous eyesore for the community. And that's all I have this morning.
Sarah?
I'm also going to be brief, mostly because I spent most of the last 4 weeks on this Tiramar project and have just been trying to dig out of my inbox. Couple of things just to note from the governor's budget, which passed, well, the New York State budget, which passed over the weekend. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in there. There's some money for infill housing. We're still waiting to understand what that actually means. Homes and Community Renewal will be managing that program. It appears to be a program that is specifically designed to build first-time home buyer, small starter homes in vacant lots in cities. It's Albany, Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, and Binghamton are the 5 communities identified for the $40 million pot of money that comes out of that. So we've been talking with real estate agents across Broome County for as long as I've been at the city about how to add more housing stock. The biggest issue is that they can build the housing for, let's say, $750,000. They can only sell that for $400,000. So nobody's going to build that project. And there are people that want homes that cost that much. In the city of Binghamton, I think we would look to kind of right size those numbers to be more of those starter homes, look at first time home buyers, increase home ownership opportunities in the city of Binghamton. So we're optimistic that that's what the final rules and regs of that allocation will be, although we don't actually know until HCR releases those regs. There's also some stipulations in the budget about cannabis. Even though when cannabis was initially made legal, the state made promises that they would be the ones in charge of enforcement and would not pass that burden on to the local government. They have now given us the wonderful privilege of also being able to enforce illicit cannabis operations in the city. The state has now essentially given themselves the authority to padlock non-compliant illicit businesses for a period of up to a year. If we pass a local law allowing us to do the same, we would also have those authorities. I think we're going to look to how some other municipalities craft those local laws before we dive into it to make sure that we don't find ourselves running afoul of the numerous lawsuits associated with anyone trying to shut down illicit cannabis in the state. We saw a situation in Syracuse where Syracuse did exactly what the state had told them that they should do to enforce illicit cannabis shops, which resulted in a major lawsuit in which the mayor of Syracuse was expressly named as a party. We do not want that to happen in the city of Binghamton. Jared's done enough lawsuits in his short tenure as mayor. We'll try to avoid that at all costs. But it's a huge problem. We had the first legal cannabis retail operation in upstate New York in the city of Binghamton. They are doing really well, but they are being undercut by all of the illicit markets. And I've talked to them, they know where the other illicit shops are, and there are lots of very young children going into those stores and buying illicit products. They are not tested. They are also not legal to be sold to people under the age of 21. So these are all things that, the grand promise of cannabis from New York State, as we all know, has not panned out the way that we expected it to. Hopefully, this will be a step in the right direction of being able to actually enforce the industry and take advantage of a $1 billion+ industry that should be benefiting the taxpayers of the state of New York and the city of Binghamton. I don't think there's anything else in the budget. There was a bunch of stuff in the budget that was interesting. There's a new stormwater grant program that was just announced by Kathy Hochul. The application's open on May 1st, so we'll be taking a look at that. Our 2 Restore New York applications are moving forward. We partnered with the county on the First Ward Action Council scatter site project that I know the mayor gave an update on at the March meeting. That project's public hearing was held last week. No comments, which it's a great project. First Ward Action Council is a great organization to work with. It's rehabilitations and reconstructions of single and multifamily homes in the First Ward, as well as the construction of roughly a 15-unit apartment building with 3,000 square feet of commercial space on the first floor. One thing that we've had a lot of success with in our office is placing more nascent, small entrepreneurs in First Ward Action Council retail spaces because he's able to offer them at very competitive lease rates. So I believe Tatiana Williams, right, who owns Vidova Liquor on Clinton Street, who was the second place winner of our business plan competition last year. She's in a First Ward Action Council retail space, has nothing but positive things to say about it. So it'd be a really, really great fit for what we're trying to do over on Clinton Street. So we'll look forward to seeing how that goes. Also advancing an application for 1 North Depot Street, which, if any of you know, is the very large blighted building right near the railroad. Hoping that that will be supported by City Council so that we can get that application in. Restore New York is first and foremost a blight reduction program for the state of New York, designed to take on what's known in economic development as white elephants, buildings that you are left with in your community that continue to decay, continue to decrease property values. It's also, I know there's been a lot of talk about potentially using that property as affordable housing. It is located far too close to a railway for New York State to ever allow affordable housing to be located in that building. So I think it's a great opportunity to take a piece of property that has really been a burden on the city of Binghamton and our community overall, turn it into an asset, take advantage of the fact that it's one of those buildings, you can't build them like that anymore. They don't build buildings of that strength and quality. It's not necessarily in a position where it's going to fall down, but the roof is completely collapsed. Masonry continues to fall off of it. It affects quality of life for the businesses and residents over there. So optimistic that that will go forward, and if not, we will find other ways to support projects like that one.
Is it originally a project of Josh Bishop
Yes.
Yes.
and he walked away from it?
He has a number of other projects in the city of Binghamton that I think are taking up more of his bandwidth. And he has not been able to get that one moving. He did at some point have an Empire State Development grant for it. It was for, I believe, $500,000.
Was it supposed to put a roof?
Yes.
The building has no roof
The
right
building
now.
has no roof.
It's been,
Wow.
it's collapsed, so
Well, we don't get rain here, so that's okay.
no.
Or snow, or freezing and thawing, or any of the wonderful things.
Well, I thought that was a long time done, that it was moving.
I mean, Josh just has a number of other competing priorities. I think this is an opportunity for him to convey this property to a developer that has some more bandwidth to take on a project of this size and scale. But frankly, the numbers don't work without grant financing and historic preservation tax credits. So we'll have to hope that those things move first.
Wow.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions for me?
What's going on with the Crowley's building?
They're advancing. I had a meeting with them yesterday. They should be selecting their GC in the next few weeks and then
Okay.
finalizing their financing. It's just.
That's
in
a
the
nice
current-
project
It's a great
for
project.
that part of the city.
Another example of how Restore New York funding can jumpstart a project. That was an awardee for 2 million or
Yeah. I'd have
one
to look
point
it up.
five,
Yeah.
a couple cycles ago. So
That's good.
And the governor specifically called it out when she was here in Binghamton a few months ago as
Yeah.
a kind of a shining example of what Restore New York is supposed to be used for. And
That's gonna be housing, right?
yeah, they're currently, I mean, as everyone knows, the interest rate environment right now is just very not favorable for any sort of construction or development. So it's taken them some time to get to a point where their term sheets make sense, but they're very close. We had a meeting with Empire State Development yesterday to talk about the status of the project, and everyone's moving forward.
Thank you.
It's great.
Good stuff.
Thank you, Sarah. Anything else for the board this morning? Motion for adjournment. Thank you, Ron. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Adjourned meeting. Thank you very much.